Trump just said the quiet part out loud. He admits that the war with Iran has nothing to do with nuclear weapons and everything to do with regime change. He posted on Truth Social, quote, "It's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change?" MEGA. First off, what a brilliant move hijacking the term MEGA. Because yesterday, in the aftermath of the US bombing of Iran, MEGA was actually trending across Twitter, an obvious jab aimed at making a mockery of Trump, suggesting that he isn't MAGA, Make America Great Again, but rather MEGA, Make Israel Great Again. And today, he's activated his minions, including one Laura Loomer, to blast into the Twitter sphere, "Make Iran Great Again." Hey, you can love or hate the guy, but you've got to admit he knows how to hijack a narrative. But today, I'm about to tell you what's actually going on. Starting with this map here, take a look at it closely and tell me, which country is the only one in the region with nukes? It's Israel. Iran, we still have yet to see any credible evidence that Iran actually has nukes. Now, in 2012, the late Kenneth Walt, a World War II veteran and a prominent scholar in the field of international relations, wrote this paper titled "Why Iran Should Get the Bomb," saying, quote, "If Iran goes nuclear, Israel and Iran will deter each other, as nuclear powers always have. There has never been a full-scale war between nuclear-armed states. Once Iran crosses the nuclear threshold, deterrence will apply, even if the Iranian arsenal is relatively small. No other country in the region will have an incentive to acquire its own nuclear capability, and the current crisis will finally dissipate, leading to a Middle East that is more stable than it is today." Yeah, you're not going to hear this on the news, but in fact, it can be argued that Israel's regional nuclear monopoly has actually fueled instability in the Middle East, and that is perhaps by design. You see, with Gaza under rubble, the tensions in the West Bank boiling over, and global protests against Israel on the rise, Netanyahu needs this war more than ever. Because war means distraction. War means national unity. War means don't talk about my corruption trial or the genocide that's being live streamed every single day. It's the oldest trick in the book. Create an outside enemy to hold on to power. And Washington, Trump, we go along with it because A, Israeli intelligence feeds us our talking points. B, the war machine loves it. And C, and this is very, very important, we want the oil.
They're sitting on the top of one of the largest piles of oil in the world. And I actually did say, don't go in, don't go in, don't go in. But I said, if you're going to go in, keep the oil.
There's Trump again, saying the quiet part out loud. Many people forget this, or it's not taught to us on purpose, but back in 1951, this man, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, was democratically elected by the people of Iran, and also named Time Magazine Man of the Year in 1952, specifically for standing up to Western imperialism. And in that vein, he did something unforgivable in the eyes of the West, in that he nationalized Iran's oil supply. So what did we do? Well, the US sent in the CIA to overthrow their government in a secret operation called Project Ajax. We then installed a dictator, the Shah, who gave us unfettered access to the oil, but also ruled brutally with US support for 25 years. We're talking secret police, torture, executions. And this is eventually what led to the rise of the Ayatollah and the Muslim fundamentalist government ruling Iran today. In fact, the US has repeatedly overthrown secular governments in the Middle East because they oppose Western imperialism. Iran in 1953, we just talked about, Iraq in 63, and also in 2003 with Saddam Hussein, Afghanistan in the 80s, Libya, Syria, that was in 2011 under Obama. And today, in regards to the Iranian oil industry, the top benefactor is China, something the US has desperately been wanting to change for a very long time. You still think it's about the nukes? Also, this is kind of important too. It's not necessarily the case that Netanyahu owns Trump, although it's definitely true that Israel has way too much influence in American politics, and it also makes for very funny memes like this. The truth is probably closer to, Trump and Netanyahu. They're still engaged in coitus, so to speak, if we're going to continue with this analogy, but the power dynamics might be a little bit more neutral. Israel, they don't want Iran to have a nuke because that would mean deterrence, maybe even peace. But it also needs Iran to want one because the threat keeps the war machine humming and keeps Netanyahu in power. And the US, we're veterans at this. We've done all of this before. We're talking about toppling governments, seizing oil fields, and calling it liberation. So when they tell you this is just one quick strike, don't buy it. Get ready, I'm telling you this right now, get ready for the dial to be turned up to 11 for another endless war sold as some kind of surgical strike in the name of democracy or liberation. My name is James Lee. This is the 5149 Show. Let me know what your thoughts are about possible war with Iran. Comment below. Be sure to also hit that like and subscribe button if you want to support independent media, and also if you want more stories that go beyond what you're allowed to question in the mainstream narrative.
I mean, the vice president went on to say that they needed to act now because there was a narrow window. And if they waited, it could have been too late. And they needed to stop the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Do you not share that concern?
No, I don't share that concern. But I have another concern, and that is that 3 bombings to neutralize Iran may turn out to be the 2025 version of 2 weeks to slow the spread.